Coach Rahne, would you mind giving us an opening statement on spring practice?
Yeah, excited about spring practice so far. We're about to do practice number 14 here, and we got a team meeting in 31 minutes. So I'm excited to wrap up spring practice on Saturday. For us, it's just going to be a traditional scrimmage, not splitting the teams up into teams or anything like that. I think some of those days may be gone for a lot of us because, with transfer portal and other things, you probably have smaller teams during the spring than we're typically used to having. And so, it's one of those things where you can still get some great work, but we do have some roster depth concerns at a few positions right now. They won't be that way in the fall, but we have them right now. And so we've just got to manage those appropriately. But I'm excited about the way the guys have worked in the off season and through spring ball, and had a lot of fun coaching these guys so far.
For our media, raise your hand and I'll call on you to ask your question. We'll start with Noah.
Coach, we saw earlier this week that Hayden announced that he was entering the transfer portal. Does that decision kind of signify that maybe there's been a decision made about the starting quarterback? And with that competition having been open, does that give a guy like Grant Wilson, the Fordham transfer, potentially a leg up heading into the fall?
There hasn't been any decisions that have been made on the starting quarterback at this point. Been happy with how our quarterbacks have been performed. I think Grant's come in and assimilated really, really quickly and done some great things. And I think the guys on the team really respect him. Been very, very impressed with Jack Shields and what he's been able to do as a young guy. His athleticism and he's got a quick release athleticism, good strong arm, and a coach's kid. I think he's done some really good things as well. And we're going to bring in another transfer to compete, because you got to make sure that you have as many bullets in the gun as possible at that position.
Let's go over to Luke.
Coach, you've talked about that transfer portal, and just how beneficial is it that after you go through spring ball, I know you're probably not alone in seeing, maybe we can add depth at this position through the portal. How beneficial is that for a coach to have gone through spring ball and then be able to evaluate and assess after that?
Well, I think the transfer portal giveth and taketh away, right? So I think there's going to be some times when maybe a position, maybe you think you have some depth at, maybe you won't after the spring. Maybe a guy sees himself as a third string guy now, and you thought to yourself, man, we've got a deep position there, 3 guys who go in and start right away, but one guy's he's all of a sudden sees himself as a third string guy, and all of a sudden he decides he needs to go get an opportunity somewhere else. So I think it's one of those positions or one of those things where you're just going to be trying to make sure that your roster is where you need it. And yeah, are there some benefits to it, like you mentioned? Absolutely. You're going to find some guys, some depth at some positions and things like that, some leadership, some experience. But you're also, I think you have to be prepared as a coach. Unfortunately, you have to be prepared to lose some as well.
Coach, looking back on a couple players from last year ahead of the NFL draft coming up at the end of the month, tight end Zach Koontz had arguably the best showing out of the Sun Belt at the NFL Combine, one of the top couple at his position in most of the drills. What makes him stand out as such a special player with the potential to succeed in the NFL?
Yeah, he's obviously he's a large human being, 6'7", 255. But he's always been such a special athlete. 40-inch vertical leap, 4.55 in the 40, and I kept telling scouts that I knew that was going to happen. And I kept telling them, hey, you better make sure that you have everything written up on this guy, because you don't want to be the one who your GM says, hey, how come we don't know enough about this guy? So, yeah, and he's such a smart kid and a special kid. He's done a lot of media recently, and I think the reason for that is he comes across so well in those things, and people like talking to him, and he comes across well because he's just being himself. He's just a genuine kid, and so love being around him. Always have. I recruited him since he was a sophomore in high school, and so I've known him a long, long time. Known his family a long, long time, and I'm very excited to see what his future is going to hold, and really seeing that he's going to be able to live out his dream.
And then another guy that appeared at the NFL Combine was your offensive lineman, Nick Saliveri. What makes him an intriguing prospect at the next level?
Yeah, I don't know if there's a player on the planet that loves football as much as Nick. You know, I mean, the guy's been to every single one of our spring practices. We have a new offense and he knows the calls. Hasn't, you know what I mean? So like, I mean, he's smart. He loves ball. He just, when people start to meet him and get around him, he's almost too good to be true. And so, you know, I think that you need that. You've got to have that love for the game of football in order to really be successful. And he certainly has that. And he puts that with some, I think, high level athleticism, some great strength, and great, football IQ and really intelligence in general. And he's going to be in the NFL for a very long time.
And we'll go over David for one last question here.
Ricky, does your limited numbers for your spring game on Saturday translate to you would not join some of your coaching colleagues in wanting to have a spring game against an opponent, another program?
I haven't really thought about that. I mean, I guess what I would say is who we're going to play. It's different. And of course, the teams in Alabama want those because unfortunately, Auburn and Alabama aren't playing those teams in their state. Right. I happen to be in a state where last year I played 4 different Division I teams from my state. You know what I mean? And I played both Virginia and Virginia Tech. And they're willing to take those risks and those chances during a regular season. So I think that's an unbelievable thing. I think it's one of those things, to be very honest with you, that a lot of people are like, yeah, let's do it when it's not a possibility. Right. Make it a possibility and then see who actually schedules and see who actually does it. And we'll see, I mean, let's be honest. As football coaches, we don't tend to usually we don't always do those things. You know what I'm trying to say? Like we act like we have a bunch of grand ideas, and then when it comes to actually executing them, we don't always do them. But I would say that I'm thankful to be in a position where I get to play Virginia Tech, where I get to play Virginia, where I have 3 road games next year where we don't leave the state of Virginia. So I mean, I think that there's something to be said for that where I'm probably in a position that's a little bit different than other people because of the opportunities I get during the regular season.
Thanks, man.
Thanks, Coach Rahne. We appreciate the time today.
Absolutely. Thank you.